Hey everyone, I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower, and we are back with Dr. Allan Armitage for more variety discussions. How are you today, Allan?
Good morning, Brian. I am well. I've just been to the eye doctor, so I can't see anything. So if I look like a deer in the headlights, I am.
You know what? I
But
think we
I
all
can
look like
always
that in
talk,
videos, so no worries at all there.
no worries. I can always talk plants, no matter what my eyes look like.
Awesome. Well, talking about plants, we talked last time about the importance overall of field trials, what they mean for the industry. As we were looking through the results of some of the trials across the country this year, there were a couple plant categories that really stood out this year, I think, more than other years. So I kind of want to get your take on a couple of those. So first one
Okay.
being Angelonia. There was a lot of interest in Angelonia this year. Can I talk about, where that's going in the market and what growers might need to know?
Well, Angelonia is a very interesting plant. And again, I'll say 10 years ago, heck, it could have been 8 years ago. Angelonia was just sort of hanging out there, maybe even more than that. But in those 10 years or 8 years, there's been a ton of breeding in Angelonia, and all for the better, I may add. We now have, I have some other really lovely cultivars that I saw at trials and at cast. But even before that, there were upright forms. There were pendulous forms for baskets.
Hmm.
There was whites and pinks and all sorts of colors, including bicolors. And the cool thing about Angelonia, and the only reason it made its way into the market, was that it's really heat and humidity tolerant.
Okay.
And so it doesn't mean it prefers to be at 100 degrees, but it tolerates those warm temperatures, which, for better or for worse, we are all starting to experience. So Angelonia has found its niche with great summer plants,
Hmm.
which provide color for a long period of time. So it doesn't surprise me that Angelonias are standing out in the trials because they're just getting better. And as you breed heat over time into that then it takes it a little bit, gives it a little bit more, love and comfort in the heat.
Yeah.
But having said that, if I can just mention one other thing, there's some newer ones coming out that I'm really excited about. And you know, I, I think we're going to see Angelonias now used even more in
Hmm.
the cut flower trade
Okay.
because what we were lacking in Angelonia was a real strong stem. I mean, it was upright, it was fine, and one that you could cut and it would last a long period of time. We are seeing that now, and I think in last year's cast saw some, and whether they are destined for the cut flower market, we shall see. But I personally believe they could do very, very well there.
Okay. Well, and that flexibility, that you mentioned, especially when it comes to heat tolerance is so important. And we saw different performances in different areas of the country that they were either hot, humid or dry humid, but regardless, the Angeloni seemed to perform really well. The other category that really jumped out at us this year was Agastache. And can you talk about that? And I guess we should kind of start with the pronunciation. I know just you talk to five different growers, five different retailers, and you'll get five different pronunciations. But, that aside, what are you seeing in this category?
Well, that's just again, I'm seeing much the same as I'm seeing with Angelonia. Agastache sort of comes out of southwest United States and Mexico, so it already has some of that heat in it.
Hmm.
That heat tolerance. It didn't have a whole lot of humidity tolerance, however, at least not that I saw in various trials here, Georgia, and all around the country. But again, I think we're starting to see the breeding not only for prettier colors, and there are spectacular colors, and we're starting to see the heat tolerance as a mainstay. But we're also starting to see the ability to survive even more humid areas. And again, there are more humid areas in this country, and there are less humid areas. But it doesn't hurt that we have cultivars now that are tolerant of both.
Hmm.
So again, Agastache has been one of those plants that kind of stumbled along, and I say that in all due respect to the breeding. In certain areas, it was wonderful. Of course, I worked in the Northwest just because it's the Northwest, and it worked in the Southwest. But you came further east, you had some more of that kind of fluctuating humidities and temperatures and all, and it just came and went. And I say that, but I think now, because as you're saying, in the trials around the country, which is of course one of the reasons we have trials around the country,
Hmm.
we're starting to see this thing. as a mainstay. And I hope it will, because I love the stuff. It has great fragrance. The foliage is fragrant. The flowers are beautiful. And, it's fabulous for a container on the deck as well as in the garden and the landscape. So I'm great. I'm happy that Agastache is doing so well. And by the way, how do you pronounce it? Well, as you said and I said, we say Agastache. It's just easier. If you really want to sound like you know what you're talking about, you pronounce it like the British, Agastache, and Agastache is a lovely plant. But the bottom line is, as you said, there's 5 different pronunciations. But here's how you think about pronouncing a plant. Anybody out there, don't ever get upset about how to pronounce a plant. Just get the syllables in the right order and fire away. It just doesn't matter. So we all know whether it's Agastache, Agastache, or whatever else we're going to call it. It's a great plant, and I'm really pleased to see it's doing so well.
Oh, that's awesome. And those watching this, planning for next growing season, make sure these 2 categories are on your radar for next year. Allan, thanks again for joining me today.
Hey, my pleasure, Brian. All the best.